And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Also want to welcome those who are tuning in today on Facebook, on YouTube, and Twitter. Glad you all could join us for a simulcast as well. For those who are joining us on the Amazon Live side, I want to remind you of two things. One, if you're new to us here, make sure you guys do hit that follow button. You'll see it here in this corner or down below. Also, you will see the new book by today's guest. We have a great program today, joined by the contributors of a brand new anthology that's out called Women with Unshakable Faith. You all can see mine there on my Kindle there. If you have not gotten it for yourself, it's on a great price right now for $3.99. You'll see it highlighted in our carousel. We have joining us throughout this broadcast some of the contributors, as well as my friend who made it all possible today. Dr. Paulette Harper is back with us as well. She's going to talk to us about this particular anthology, how this group of women were able to come together, and hopefully their stories will help to inspire all of you. To get us started, though, we have a great group that's joining us. As I mentioned, we have Dr. Paulette Harper on with us. We have Crystal Rosser. We have Christian Aguilar joining us, as well as Shapri Johnson as well. We're going to start things off with them. And throughout this show, you guys will be able to meet some of the other contributors. If you have any questions, we do have the comment section open on all of our platforms, including YouTube and Facebook. So feel free to be able to put your questions in. But ladies, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Cyrus.
Hey,
we're glad to be here.
Look, great to see all of you. Congratulations on the big week. Paulette, I want to start with you. This is something that you've gotten quite used to, but what has it been like for you to see the early response to Women with Unshakable Faith?
Oh, Cyrus, it has been amazing. It really has. No matter how many book collaborations I do, every one of them is different because it's a different group of authors every time. And so with Women with Unshakable Faith, 14 women who said yes to joining me on this journey of sharing their impactful stories. We're really excited. One, for being here today, but also yesterday was our ebook launch, and we became Amazon bestselling authors in 8 categories. So wow. Give it up for all the women in the chapters.
Yeah. I want to read something you wrote, Paulette, and we're going to bring the other contributors in here because one of the things that Paulette always does is kind of sets the stage for us with each book. You said this about this particular book, Paulette. These women come from all walks of life, and their stories reflect the diverse experiences and struggles that women face every day. Is that one of the things that you hope people take away from Women with Unshakable Faith, that it doesn't matter where they're from, what they look like, that they'll be able to find someone in this book they can relate to and inspire by?
Yes, definitely. When women are able to share their authentic story, no matter what it looks like and the struggles that they've had, they emphasize the struggles that they've had, and they're writing from a place of wholeness, from a place of being able to freely share. And so we want women and some men to, take these stories and apply them to their lives so they know that these women are unshakable. They have faith that has been unshakable, and that they too can live an unshakable life as well.
Yeah. And what I thought was so interesting when I started reading the anthology, and we'll get more into it as I'm talking to each of the contributors here, is that they're very honest. I mean, whether they talked about questioning God, being mad at God, having moments where there is that feeling of, is God there? Paulette, this is something that you've been able to share before. Is that also what you want people of faith to know? For one, they're not alone in feeling that, but also that they can be able to get to the other side of whatever they're going through.
Yes, definitely. Because there is nothing that is impossible for us to go through, especially when we have faith in the Lord. And struggles come, heartaches come, disappointments come, us being disappointed in God. Those things are normal emotions that come, but yet we still have to get through those. And we get through those by, the word of God, by having faith in the Lord, and then by really being transformed by what the word says, and not being so focused in on our condition, but finding a way to get out of it.
Paulette, let's talk about the why for a moment, because our audience will see on the Amazon Live side, and I think Amazon's going to be rotating some of the other books as well throughout the carousel here. This is something that you've been very committed to in sharing stories. I know that you have another project you're working on. You mentioned men, that you're going to be sharing men's stories as well. Talk to us about the why. Why did you decide this is something you wanted to do when it comes to helping others, for one, to be able to share their story, but also to use their story to inspire others?
Yeah, one of the reasons why I wanted to do it is I had a platform to be able to offer the opportunity for those who didn't necessarily, they wasn't ready to write a solo book, but they could write a 1,500 word chapter, and so to give them the opportunity and the freedom to, to be able to share their story and be safe about doing it. And so I wanted to provide a safe place for them to share whatever that story looked like, whatever test trial situation that they've gone through, to be able to share it in a way in which they can find freedom in sharing their stories, and then bringing them to places like this, bringing them to stages that they can freely talk about their experiences in life. Because the thing about writing stories is they're not, the stories are about us, yes, but they're really for people, readers and listeners who will embrace our stories and then apply what we have learned through our process to their very own lives, knowing that they can get through anything as well.
Such a great point. Let's go ahead and talk to the contributors a little bit. As I mentioned, we have Chapri
Mhm.
here with us, Crystal and Christian. Christian, I'm going to start with you. I met you first today. Again, welcome to Cyrus Represents here on Amazon Live. I want to talk about this experience for you, Christian. What was it like for you to be able to, one, have a platform to share your story, but also to already see the early response to it?
To be honest, I this whole experience has been awesome. To be able to share my story, to be able to encourage people out there. I'm very excited that God gave me this opportunity.
Have you always known, Christian, that writing was something that you wanted to do?
Um, God put that on my heart a couple years ago because I always would journal, like whenever I would go through things. He would always, he put that on my heart, so I always kept a journal with me.
And now here you are, and twice I've called you Christian as Christina.
My
I
name's
think we're thrown on the
Christina.
screen with Christina. My apologies for that. So I want to talk about what it was like for you to kind of see, now that you've had an opportunity, now that the book is out. What has it been like for you to kind of dive into some of the other women's stories, Christina, and to see how some of them kind of parallel with some of your own feelings and thoughts?
I just kind of I kind of been reading a little bit through the book. I just started, but
Mhm.
I know that we all have a story to tell. We all been through something and we can all encourage each other.
Yeah. And I think that's the big thing. I appreciate that. We're going to be coming back to you here. Chapri, we're going to go ahead and bring you in as well. So I want to talk to you about your experience. What has it been like for you to have been able to, for one, have the courage to share your story, but now to see the response to it?
Well, I mean, to be honest, it was one of those things that I wasn't really sure. I was ready to put out there and let everybody else hear what my journey was, but I actually came to myself in the understanding that, somebody is going to be blessed. Somebody's been through the same kinds of experience, maybe different, but very similar. And so, why wouldn't I share that? So, this has been a phenomenal experience. I have just really embraced the whole idea of being a writer, but also being able to share a story that maybe will bless somebody else's life.
Is writing something for you, Chapri, that you always wanted to do? Is that something that you always knew was meant for you?
I probably have been writing since I could hold a pencil and paper to pen to paper. Very early, I did a lot of journaling as a little kid. I did picture stories when I was before I could actually do the writing. So it's always been a passion. My mother actually is a writer herself.
Okay.
She's not published, but that love for writing has always been there. So yeah. I had other ideas to write a story. I have probably four other titles that didn't haven't been put um, to publishing yet. So having that experience with Dr. Paulette has been amazing. I kind of have now an idea through her vision and the things that she's shared with us, how that process actually works. So I appreciate that, just having that understanding of how to actually produce a book. That's
Right.
been wonderful.
You bring up a really good point. So I want to ask you a similar question to what I asked Christina. So being a part of a project like this, does this kind of reinforce for you what you can do when it comes to not only sharing your story, but also the impact of your story?
Oh, absolutely. I think, everybody goes through something in life.
Right.
And I think the reasons we go through those things is for our own personal growth, so that we can hopefully evolve from that area and not be stuck in it. So I think if we get to that place in our lives that we're going to go through stuff like, I mean, we're all human and we all go through certain situations, some maybe a little bit more difficult than others. But we get through it if we have the right mindset and we know that, we're going to trust God through that whole process. And, a lot of things we go through, our mess is usually our message that we have to bring. So if we look at it in that frame of mind, that, we're going to get through it and hopefully it'll be a blessing to somebody else because we did.
Yeah, well, I know it will for sure. Appreciate that, Shapri. I'm going to go ahead and bring in Crystal now. Crystal, I want to ask you a similar question. I mean, what was it like for you, for one, to be able to write your contribution for this new book, but also to now see the early response to it?
It was amazing because I've always, I don't know, wanted to write, and it was just the ability to get my story out and hopefully help somebody. It's amazing to me. I like it.
Could you have imagined when you started this project, Crystal, that there would be, for one, others who could relate to your feelings? I know a lot of times we feel like people don't understand what we're going through, but could you have imagined that that would be the case when you went into this project?
Not really, because I thought that finding God was one certain way, but you can find God in every way. He doesn't come when you want him to, he comes when you need him to. So
Love that. And for yourself now, I mean, when you kind of think about this journey, I mean, does this seem inevitable for you, Crystal, that you would write? Is that something you always knew that you wanted to do when it comes to sharing your story?
yes, I can think back in college, like I took writing courses and I hated them because I didn't know how to write. So I'm like, I don't want to do this. So, and he just kept forcing me into it, just like paperwork and stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then I seen Dr. Paulette, she put up there, "Do you have unshakable faith?" And I was like, I do. I've been through something. So, and it needs to be told. So,
Yeah. And we're going to get more into that title. So, Paulette, I want to bring you back up because as I reset here, I want to say already, for those who are just tuning in, appreciate you guys over there on YouTube. We see you guys. You all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents on Amazon Live, but we are streaming also for you guys on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So if you guys do have any questions, feel free to put those in there. We'll be glad to be able to get those answered for you. For those joining us on Amazon, again, welcome. We have the book highlighted that we're discussing today. Let me show you guys a cover again here on my Kindle. It's Women with Unshakable Faith. And we're talking with some of the contributors today of the new anthology. As you heard Paulette mention already, an Amazon bestseller. So Paulette, I wanted to bring you back up because of what Crystal just alluded to, and that is what the title of this book says, Unshakable Faith. And I think we can all agree, going back to 2020 in particular, to where we are today, there's a lot of things going on in the world that can shake our faith. Even people of faith can have their faith shaken. Talk to us about what you wanted that title to represent, because one thing that all of these that I've read have really shown is that it doesn't mean you won't go through anything. But what do you want the reader to take away from this particular anthology when it comes to what unshakable faith means?
Yeah, for having the title "Women with Unshakable Faith," it's in agreement with what you just said. We're going to go through something. It's just inevitable because we live in a world that's always trying us and testing us by our faith. And so when you think about having faith that's unshakable, if we can just hold on to what the promises of God says, what his vision is for our lives, no matter what goes on in life, and we can maintain the faith that we have in the promises of God, we can endure everything. And so this title here, Women with Unshakable Faith, these are women of courage. These are women who have gone through something, who have, mastered how to get through it by the process that they've gone through. And we want other people to know that you're going to go through something in life. That is just that's part of living. That's part of life. And it's how you handle it. It's how you process it. It is really how you take what you're going through and allow it to transform your life, to shape you, to mold you. And so you can see God in the truth of his word, that no matter what we go through, faith is going to be the thing that's going to be the pillar of our lives. It's going to be the foundation in which we live.
Such a great thing. Shapri, I'm going to bring you back up because I want to actually mention something from your particular contribution. Because for those who have gotten the book, Shapri's chapter is 10 Days at the Feet of God. I want to talk about Jeremiah 29:11. It's a scripture that a lot of us are familiar with. I'm going to read it, Shapri, and kind of talk about how this scripture has kind of guided you. It says, it's quoted in the King James Version in your particular contribution. For I know the plans I have for you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to bring you to an expected end. Talk to us about how that has helped you to be able to find that peace, even when things aren't going well for you, Shapri.
Oh, definitely. You know, a lot of times people have that thought that they say, well, why am I going through this? You know, and what Dr. Paulette was saying, we're going to go through something. So if we have that mindset, to know that regardless of what we're going to go through, God already has the plan. We just have to get from the start of it to the end of it, to go through that whole process. And hopefully, you know, in the long run, we're going to be better people. We're going to have a stronger faith in God because of those situations. So when it says that I know the plans, we have to know that God already, he already has preordained and predestined us to whatever it is we're going to go through. But sometimes that process, we have to get to that, through that process in order to get there. So
such a great point. And it's, again, I think a lot of people can relate to that aspect. Christina, you talk about in your chapter, The Day My Daddy Left, you know, very personal. And I had gone through as I was prepping for today, of course, you know, after the book release, and just kind of reading through those I knew I'd be speaking through. I mean, again, a very powerful thing. And you start yours off with a question: what happens when you need a relationship with your father, but he isn't there? Talk to us about that, because I think a lot of us, our families test our faith in many ways, for sure. But talk to us about how that relationship with your father, or lack of that feeling, how that kind of impacted you when it came to your faith.
So for me, not having my dad around because he was in his heroin addiction, so it was hard growing up without him, you know, to have a father figure, somebody to be there, you know. So he was constantly in and out of my life. But I knew that God was always with me through those times.
And I think, again, that's something that our audience can relate to, because we've all kind of been in those situations. You know, Crystal, for you, I mean, you talk about the first ring. And again, yours opens with a question: what happens when God calls you and you do not answer? I think we all kind of can experience that. Talk to us about this for you, because, again, you're very personal in your contribution about your own journey with not only faith, but also your own journey with God. Talk to us about that and what it was like for you to kind of put pen to paper on that and to really to express it.
Could you ask me that again? Sorry.
Sure. Yeah. No, I was just sure. So as you no, it's totally fine. When you think about that question about, you know, about the call in our lives, right, and you don't answer, what was it like for you to kind of examine that? Then, of course, to put pen to paper and to share that with us.
Well, because just my life was going in shambles, and I didn't know why. I was doing, like, because I'm a good person. I treat people how I want to be treated. So I was just going through life like, this is not how I want to be treated, and why is this happening? So I questioned God and just asked him just why. I don't know why, what's going on, and he just started just talking to me, just telling me to come to him. Just, I don't know. It's I don't know.
No, I get it. So I'm gonna ask you this question. I'm gonna go back around and ask everyone else. Everyone else can prepare for this question. Did you recognize yourself as you were writing it, Crystal? And I guess what I mean by that is, when you look at where you are today, what was it like for you to look at where you were and where you are right now?
I'm just blessed, a blessing. Because I was just hurt. I was hurt and angry. I didn't know why. It was just, it's just like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
It was just chaotic, and just how family life is, and not really knowing, because I didn't grow up with my parents. I didn't have my birth parents, and I had my grandparents, but you don't have that connection with how you would with your parents, obviously. But
Right.
and it's that just, I don't, it just, it wasn't fun. So I wanted to improve and be a better person, and I had to find something else. It was inevitable.
Right. And now you're able to share that with us. I mean, Shapri, I want to ask you the same question. What was it like for you to take us back to a low spot and now see where God has brought you?
Yeah, a lot of feelings came back, because it was like multiple things that I have had to deal with all at once, all at the same time. So just going through that process, I think we kind of go through levels of peeling back those things like an onion. You peel back those areas, but it gets down to the core. And so once you get to that part, then you really know who you are. God kind of sanctions who you are. And he kept telling me, I've got you. And so that in the back of my mind, to know that he's got me. And so I'm going to get through this. And yes, I have to go through this process because it's going to make me a better person in the long run.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's the whole thing for us. Christina, what about for yourself? What was it like for you to take us back to what seemed like your lowest, and now to look at where you are today?
Well, at the time, I know I was wounded. I was very hurt, a lot of emotions. And I look at myself today, and I'm a totally different person. God healed my heart, and I know that I'm strong. And I know that he gave me strength to overcome all those things in my life. And it's because of him that I'm standing here, and I get to tell my testimony. And I hope that it encourages somebody out there and gives them hope.
Yeah, that hope is so important. Sherry Marie, hello to you on Facebook. Sherry says, what a necessary conversation. Thanks for your transparency, Queens. And I think that's the other big side of this, too, because it does take courage to be able to do this. So I want to go back to you then, Paulette, for yourself. When you kind of hear these conversations being had and hearing, how the contributors are sharing, does this kind of tie into exactly what you hope this particular anthology would do?
Yes, it is. One of the things that I coach when they decided they want to be part of this anthology is anytime that we're writing something so personal, a nonfiction book, it's going to take us back to those moments where those emotions and the memory of it, it may trigger some emotion that you thought you had gotten through. And that's the power of storytelling, because we want to be able to share our stories at a place where we're whole, of course. And so when we think about, writing these kind of stories, you get taken back to that moment that brought you pain, and so you can reflect on that, but write it in the place that you're not there anymore. It might be a memory that takes you back there, but you're not living in that moment anymore. And those are the kind of powerful stories that we can write and we can have people resonate to and with, because we're writing from a place of being whole. We're writing from a place of transparency, and we're taking our own story, as ugly as it may be, as disappointing, as traumatic as it may be, but not allowing that to be the deciding force, the deciding mechanism, how I live my life. It is taking those stories and changing the narrative and turning those stories into impactful, transformational messages for people who will read our stories and who will grow and be impacted by them as well.
Such a great point. Paula, you say in the beginning of Women with Unshakable Faith that through their stories, we discover the power of faith to transform lives, to heal wounds, and to inspire us to be our best selves. And I think that, again, is a great message for all of you. So I want to say thank you to all of you for being with us, for being a part of this as we're doing the kickoff to celebrating those contributors to Women with Unshakable Faith. Again, I'm going to go ahead and go through. I want to make sure our audience knows how to stay connected with you. Shapri, I'm going to start with you. How can our audience stay connected with you?
I am on Facebook and Instagram. You can reach me, Shapri Johnson, that way. I'm also shaprijohnson@gmail.com. So you can reach me on that platform as well. And thank you. I appreciate being here.
Well, look, glad to have you. Michelle on Facebook says, awesome queens, giving you your flowers here. What about you, Crystal? How can our audience stay connected with you?
You can reach me on Facebook at Crystal Rosser and on Instagram at Healing Open Wounds.
All right. Love it. Love it. And Christina, what about for yourself? How can our audience stay connected with you?
You can reach me on Facebook, Christina Aguilar, and Instagram, the same name. And then I have my email, Christina 2A's2120 @outlook.com.
All right. Well, thanks to all of you again. Congratulations again on an Amazon bestseller. Again, Women with Unshakable Faith. Let me go ahead and pull the cover up again. For those who are just tuning in, we're speaking with some of the contributors today of the new anthology. You guys can see it there. I'm going to go ahead and bring myself back up so you guys can see it better there. Definitely something you want to go ahead and get. $3.99 right now on Amazon. So go ahead and take advantage of it. Getting the Kindle now. If you don't have a Kindle, you can always download the Kindle to PC, be able to read it on your computer, or of course on your phone as well. Paulette, you're going to stay with us here as we're getting ready to bring up our next guest with us. I definitely want to say, for those who are joining us on Facebook, on YouTube, and Twitter, appreciate you guys being with us. You all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents here today. Glad you all could be with us for our broadcast as we're talking with some of the contributors of the new anthology that you guys are seeing now, Women with Unshakable Faith. So, Paulette, we're going to go ahead and bring you up front and center now as we get ready to bring in our next group. Does this get old for you at this point, Paulette? I mean, for one thing, congratulations again on another Amazon bestseller, but this feeling of being able to help individuals to share their stories, to birth these books, is this something that you still have those pinch me moments with it?
I do, Cyrus. No matter how many times I've written published an anthology, the excitement is always there because I've gone through a whole lot to get here, and to be able to see the authors, to see their transformation in these stories, and to see what God has done in their lives, it's a blessing to me. And so I get elated every time I produce an anthology, when I get a proof copy. It's just an amazing experience because I see the lives of women and men be changed by their very own powerful stories.
Love that. I want to reset things now and say welcome to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. We also are simulcasting today on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're joined right now by Dr. Paulette Harper, but also we have some of the contributors of the brand new anthology. You guys can see it here. Go ahead and pull myself back up again. It's Women with Unshakable Faith is the title of it. You guys can see it there. You can get it right now on Kindle for $3.99. We're just talking to Paulette about this experience. And Paulette, we're now joined by some of the other contributors of Women with Unshakable Faith. We have Donna Yates with us, Jennifer Johnson, and Michelle Woodson Alexander. Thanks to you all for being with us. Really appreciate you guys joining us.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to kick things off in this segment with Donna. Donna, I want to talk to you about this experience. What has it been like for you already to see the response to the new anthology?
It has been amazing. It's sort of surreal. It is. I feel like I've been able to birth like a baby. Well, you can't imagine that, Cyrus, but no. It's like birthing a baby. It's like a dream being realized. So it is an amazing, amazing feeling.
Donna, one of the questions I've been asking everyone here is about the process, because sharing is very personal, and what you shared in the book is very personal. Is this something though that almost seemed inevitable for you, though, that you would at some point share your story to be able to help someone else?
Not in the beginning. I started journaling when I was 20 years old. My mother was a self-published writer. She had a spoken CD, and I never thought I was going to measure up to the woman she was. I mean, I put her up on a pedestal. So when I started journaling, and then I had other men and women of God speak into me and say, "You're going to write one day," it was hard to believe. But it wasn't until I met Pastor Paulette, Dr. Harper, that I was able to realize it, to be able to put pen to paper and actually realize the dream that people had already planted, the seed had already been planted in me. So in the beginning, no, I didn't think so. But after meeting Dr. Paulette, I was able to realize that dream.
Wow, such an amazing thing. Michelle, I want to ask you, first of all, congratulations to you again on an Amazon bestseller with Women with Unshakable Faith. What has this experience been like for you, Michelle, to be able to see the way that readers are already gravitating to the anthology, but also those who know you reading your chapter in it?
Oh my God. So many people, their minds were blown. They were like, "We didn't know you could write," and I said, I've always wanted to write a book. And I had the honor of meeting Dr. Paulette in a prayer group, and she always offered, this book. And I was like, I wanted to do it, but I wasn't financially able. The first time I wasn't financially able. The second time my mind wasn't ready. And then the third time I said, I'm ready. And I was praying that she believed me, and so we finally hooked up, and here we are today. I'm so humbled with this experience. God is so good, and to know that my dream is here. And I'm just honored, and I'm thankful to Dr. Paulette, honestly.
I appreciate you sharing that. Michelle, I want to ask you this question. I wasn't planning on it, but based on what you just said, I have learned in my life that a lot of times people can see something in us before we see it in ourselves. What has it been like for you now to see in yourself what other people saw in you?
It's amazing. I just really think that what God has for you is for you.
Yeah.
And our trials come to make us strong. And I know that I'm a strong woman of God, and I don't play, and I don't take him for granted, because I don't want the wrath of God on me, so I try to stay in his will, as much as possible. I'm not perfect. I am a work in progress, but I'm just really thankful, grateful, and humble.
What a great thing. And again, a great reminder for all of us. Jennifer, I want to ask you the same question. First of all, congratulations to you again.
Thank you.
Being part of a best-selling anthology. Talk to me about the experience, Jennifer. What has it been like for you to see the way that people are responding to the book and to your contribution?
So I can actually say, for me, this chapter is closure for me.
Oh, wow.
And the reason why I say that is because I was in an anthology before, and I wrote my first chapter about my depression and what caused me to go into depression. And my depression story ended with me writing my own personal testimony about God delivering me from my depression. But the way how I met Dr. Paulette and the way how I knew God was speaking was through me honoring somebody else's platform. They gave me an opportunity to speak on their platform. And from there, Dr. Paulette sent me a DM, and I'm like, okay, who is this lady? And I'm like, okay, Jesus, I need to pray about it. But when God said, no, this is the real deal. And when I knew it was the real deal, it's because when God started speaking, like, okay, now I need you to close this chapter in your life. And so I just take it as an opportunity that this is closure, and I am free to move on, and I'm no longer bound to what happened to me 41 years ago.
Yeah. I want to talk about that, if you don't mind,
Okay.
Jennifer, because one thing that you said that God said to you, and I want to read it because I want our audience to get this. You wrote, God stopped me and reminded me, you are stronger than you think. This is no longer your story, but someone needs to hear it. I got you. Now, if that's not reinforcement, for God to tell you, you don't have to worry about this. I got you. Talk to us about what that was like for you to receive. Because again, it goes to what I was just saying. A lot of times people can see things and say things, but we have to receive it. So what was it like for you to receive that for yourself?
So anyone who knows me, they know I will push people. I will push people. I will see something in people because I'm retired military. So I'm that person, like I will tell my soldiers, I'm going to find potential in you that you don't even think that you have, because I see more than you than what you see in yourself. And so God was just reminding me, it's like, you're quick to want to help somebody else, but when it comes to you, what are you doing for yourself? And I'm like, okay, Lord, and God is always putting awesome women in my path. And the day that God spoke that, I was just like, I said, okay, God, I know you got me, because if you didn't have me, I had 3 deployments and I could not be sitting here talking to y'all today. So I know God had me. And so it was just like, write the chapter and help somebody else that has a family secret, and they know it might hurt some people's feelings, but at the end of the day, your healing is just as important as other people's.
Yeah, such a great point. Michelle, you talk about in your chapter about having the courage to begin again. And I think for a lot of people, that's going to, again, they're going to hear, I think, the themes of these, even though your experience is your experience. But for a lot of people, that will be different things. For you, it had to do with a relationship. For others, it could be with a job, could be with a location, could be with a family member. Talk to us about that. What was that like for you to realize that you literally had to let one door close to go where you were supposed to be?
Oh my God. It was so hard because I was a single mother of 3. And I had a very supportive family. So I just made up in my mind that when this little girl turns 3 and in preschool, I'm going to go back to school and do what I need to do so that I can provide for my children. And I just stepped out on faith. I walked to school every day. I studied after they went to sleep at night. And I, completed that school. And I'm forever grateful for that. It's just, we have so much power ourselves, but it's up to us to step out on faith and do it. We just have to do it. For me, it was just me and the Lord. It's just me and you. And Lord, I want to please you. It ain't about nobody else. I don't care what anybody thinks or says. I don't care that what I wrote in this book, it may step on someone's toes. But for me, it's therapy.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to help someone else. Our testimonies are to be shared. And I do want to also state that I am thankful for Donna Yates. I met Donna Yates, and I have been on her prayer line for the last 5 years. And if it had not been for Donna, I'd have never met Dr. Paulette. So it's just 3 in 1. I'm blessed. I am so blessed. And thank you both again for everything.
I know that means a lot for them. So, Donna, your name was called, and plus it's your time anyway. So here you are. so I want to talk about something you wrote in your particular contribution to the anthology, and that is, again, something that's a lesson for all of us, and that is not just to hear God's voice, but to listen to God's voice. And they're not the same thing. You saw that, and you talk about that in your chapter. Again, talking about separation, as I was just talking about as well. What has that been like for you to do those two things? Donna, to recognize God's voice, but then also have the faith to be able to listen to it.
In my chapter, I talk about how, and this is so important, I believe, that when you are relying on someone else's faith, at some point, God is going to want you to get off of the bottle, and he's going to want you to start eating the meat of his word. You have to have a personal relationship with him. And I remember vividly the day I heard his voice, and it was probably one of the few times that I'd ever heard it, and knew that he was talking to me. And what he told me was that the ladies that I was with, my mentors, the people I look up to, the ones I was hanging on to their every word, that I was no longer going to be with them. And that the friendship and the bond that we had would still be there, but we wouldn't be together. And I remember hearing it and looking around to see if anybody else heard what I heard. And from that day until this day, we have never been together again. So that is hearing him clearly and knowing that he was talking to me. He wanted me to know. And let me just tell you, from that day, what he taught me was that you have to be able to hear me and know who I am, because when your struggles come, you have to be ready, and you have to know it's me, and you have to know that I'm going to bring you through. Your sister can't tell you. I have to tell you. And so it was hearing him and then being obedient and not being afraid. Peace has been my guide the entire time. Even when I didn't know that I needed peace, he gave me peace as he spoke to me and said I was never going to be with those ladies again. So when I had a breast cancer scare and he gave me peace, I knew it was him. So I heard him. I was obedient, and that's important. We have to have a relationship. So when he's talking to us, we know clearly that it's him.
Yeah, that's it. Paulette, I want to bring you back here as we round out this segment, because I think when I'm just listening to Donna just talk here, one thing that comes to mind is how faith shows itself, right? Because it's easy for us to say when things are going the way we want them to, that we have faith, that we believe, and we trust God. But when the rubber meets the road, as all of them are talking about in the situations, then it shows itself. Because in each one of the three here, there is that time where God is going to speak, and then it's up to us to listen. What was that like for you to kind of see the common thread there with them? Oh, Polly, you're muted, Polly.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's having that common thread that each of them had to have an encounter with God. And that's the thing about the Lord. He meets us right where we are because he knows us. He knows the very hairs of our head. So he knows exactly what test, what trial, what adversity is going to get our attention, what's going to get our attention. And so having that encounter with him, he meets us on that, at that point of our need. And so having this kind of faith, we need it for everything that we go through in life. And it's not something that happens overnight. It's a process. Every time we go through something, there is more faith that we have to apply. There is more the word that we have to know. There's more growth and development that we have to go through. But ultimately, it is building our faith, because faith has to be our stepping stone. It has to be the foundation in which we live, which we move, which we have our being in Christ. And so these stories are testaments of these women's faith, that they stood on the word, the promise, whatever that looked like for them, and said yes to God and allowing him to orchestrate their lives to bring them to this place right now.
Love it. And we thank all of you again for your contribution, for being a part of today's show, but also being a part of this important anthology. Again, we're speaking to some of the contributors of Women with Unshakable Faith. I definitely want our audience to be able to know how to stay connected with you. Jennifer, why don't you start off? How can our audience stay connected with you in your journey?
Okay, so on Facebook, you have to look me up under I Am a King's Kid, because there are a lot of Jennifer Jacksons. So you'll look for me and you won't find me. Okay. On Instagram is Jennifer M. Jackson _, and my email is IamHealed@NoMoreSecrets.me.
Appreciate that. Donna, what about for yourself? How can our audience stay connected with you?
First of all, thank you, Cyrus. This was an honor. Second, I'm DonnaYates.com. That is my website, as well as my email is DonnaYates30@gmail.com. And lastly, Facebook, it's Donna Yates, and Instagram is One Blessed Yaya Papa.
Okay. All right. Love it. Love it. Michelle, what about for yourself? How can our audience stay connected with you?
You can connect with me at Michelle Woodson-Alexander at Facebook. Instagram, Michelle Woodson Alexander, Miss Mimi, MWA, and my website is MichelleWoodsonAlexander.mwa.com.
Okay. Well, thanks to all of you again. Really appreciate you all being with us for this segment. Continued success to you, and looking forward to speak with you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. For those again who are just tuning in, you all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. We're talking today to some of the contributors of the new anthology, Women with Unshakable Faith. I'm joined by my friend Paulette Harper here, who helped to bring these amazing women together. Again, I'm going to show you guys the cover of the book here. So make sure you guys, if you're not on the Amazon side, make sure you guys head over there to be able to get it for yourself. You'll find the link with this broadcast. If you're joining us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, if you guys are on the Amazon Live side, we do have it highlighted in the carousel there. So definitely make sure you guys take advantage of that. We're down to our last segment here, Paulette. The time is passing quickly. but I'm really enjoying it. I mean, we're going to have our next three contributors they're going to be bringing up here. I want to talk to you about one thing that we were just talking about, though, because I think it's an interesting thing that is a theme for everyone that I hope our audience gets. And it goes to what you wrote in the beginning of the book, Paulette, and that is that not only does everyone have a story, you're not alone in your story. How important has that been for you with this anthology?
Yeah, for me, it's really been one of the foundations, because a lot of times we don't share our stories because we think we're by ourselves. We think that we're the only one that is going through this. We're the only one that's feeling and having these kind of emotions. But it's really not until we open up our mouths and we begin to share what we've gone through that other people will begin to say, yeah, you know what, I felt like that. I've gone through that as well. So it does, when we share our stories, it does give other people the opportunity to resonate with the story and then to own their own truth, so they can come forth and say, you know what, that was me, and I want to be able to share my story as well.
In this next segment, Paulette, we have joining us Shatoria Christian, and I want to make sure, because I think it's Ebony Marie, or Ebony?
You can say one.
Ebony?
Yeah, that's
awesome. Okay, awesome. Well, I want to start things off with Ebony then. So Ebony, let's talk about this journey for you. What has it been like for you? One thing to be a part of this anthology, but also to see the response to it.
So this is the book. So the first book, Hello, which is a different giant by itself. When it came to with these beautiful women, it was almost I'm not me. You know, there's other people depending on my piece. So for me, you got this, because it's not for naught. The story needs to be, told and shared, and what I have is going to help bring the book to its fullness, and to where we are right now. I think I'm still in shock. I know Dr. Paulette, you went live and I said in shock, because how far we've come, and to be bestseller. Like, this is my first bestseller, so I think I'm still processing the fact that I'm a bestseller now, and the fact that I never even thought I would be an author to begin with is one thing, but to be an author and a bestseller is, the journey has been trying, but definitely worth it.
Love it. Well, congratulations to you again. So I want to ask you something then. Is this something that you saw for yourself then, Ebony? Do you see yourself being able to not only to share a bit of your own personal journey, but also to inspire people by it?
So yes and no. So okay. in the beginning of my life, absolutely not. Okay. But within the last 10 years, like, God has just been showing me, and it took me about 5 years to write my solo book, because I hesitated so much, but I seen God tell me, you're going to write books. And so it scared me to do so, because the enemy can have your mind so caught up with the negative that you're like, no matter what I say, people aren't going to listen. Especially when you experience where you're helping people and they're like, they're telling you to shut up, or you don't know what you're talking about. And so then those things play in your mind. But when God pushed me, he had me do my own podcast, and he started to show, and I was getting a lot of views. And so with that, God was showing me, he's like, see, people will listen to you. It may not be those around you, but there are people that I have called to hear your voice. So I need you to be diligent in doing this. So after he showed that to me, then I understood, and I'm like, my yes is yes, and I can't go back on that because I told God yes. So had you told me when I was like 10 or 12 or even in 20 that I would be an author, I'd be like, yeah, you're crazy. But within the last few years, I definitely was like, this is where God is sending me.
Wow. And now here you are. Shatori, I want to ask you a similar question here. For yourself, what has this experience been like for you to have the book out and now to be able to share your story with the world?
So this has been fun. It's different because this is my second book. Okay. And so this is definitely a different experience than the first one. I woke up this morning, I was like, ooh, I'm a bestseller. And so I was like, wait, that's a different feeling. But it's good to get out the things that are of me. And so one of the things that I'm very transparent as it is. So to have a book to where I can keep being transparent, I can keep being real and honest and authentic, it's good. It's fun. Because people really get to see me for who I am. There's no add-ins. This is just who it is. So this experience was definitely different because I think what Dr. Harper did, she allowed me to see something different than what I was used to. Writing, yes, but this gave me an opportunity to see that one, I can collab because I've never collabed. I won't say I don't do well with others. What it is I'm just one of those ones. I have a space and a way. Let's do it this way. But to be able to collab with people that are in different spaces was fun because we got to see each other in different ways. We added value to each other. So to see where we started in December, stepping out on faith to where we at right now is actually pretty dope. To say that, I have, 8 categories to my name. It is one of the best feelings in the world.
Love that. And Choice, I want to ask you a similar question. First of all, congratulations to you. What has this experience been like for you?
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. It's been absolutely amazing. I piggyback on what all of the beautiful ladies has said. This is my second anthology with Dr. Pauletta. And so each one from the first one, it was so nerve-wracking. It was scary to open up, to talk about stories that you thought that you healed from, but you were kind of opening up old wounds again and had to really dive deep into what it is that you wanted to speak and how you wanted the story to be portrayed. So being able to have this amazing opportunity again to write with Dr. Pauletta, it gave me the opportunity to realize that I do have a voice. And like the other lady said, not only do I have a voice, people are listening, people are also relating. It needs to be heard. It's helping to heal others. And not only am I helping to heal others just by sharing my story, it's also healing me. It's bringing me out of those places that I was afraid. And what better way to tell another story in Women with Unshakable Faith, showing that even out of fear, I'm still moving. I'm still saying yes, as Miss Ebony said. I'm still giving over those trials, those tribulations, and showing that in spite of, I'm still rising, in spite of God is still using me, in spite of what it looks like. Things are going to be good regardless, as long as I have faith. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Troy, I want to stay with you for a second because you dealt with something that a lot of our audience can relate to. no matter, again, where we are. And again, it goes to the universal nature of this anthology, and that is the loss of a loved one, you know. And I think for me, you know, the closest that I've talked about publicly has been my grandmother, who helped raise me. It'll be 9 years in May. Sometimes it feels like forever ago. Sometimes it feels like just yesterday. But you were very transparent in talking about that experience. Was that also part of the healing for you?
Oh, yes, it was. As I stated, there were things that I just knew, like grief never ends. The weight either becomes more unbearable, it becomes more heavy, or you learn to cope with it. You learn to lighten that load. But as you said, it's always there. And so there were things that I had to really address within this story. That I was like, oh, you know, Choice, you've come so far, you know, and you did it from a place of the unknown. And there's still things that trigger me. But then I have to pat myself on the back, just realizing that I've come so far, and it's never going to go away. Never. I say all the time, I said it in the first anthology, and I probably didn't mention it in the second one, but we grieve because we loved. And the more we loved, the harder the grief is going to be. And my mother was my best friend. And so to be able to work through the challenges of raising a young man, my brother who was 8 at the time, not knowing what I was doing, and not realizing that what grief looked like or how it felt. It was very hard. And still to this day, there's still times where I realized that I didn't grieve enough. But the more I'm telling my story, the more that I'm talking about it, it is allowing more healing for me.
Yeah. And I think that, again, is something that all of us can relate to. I'm going to go to you, Ebony, and ask you a question, because one thing you talk about is about having faith in what God promises. Mm-hmm. And that is not always easy to do, especially when we don't see the way there.
Right.
Talk to us about how you got there. What helped you to be able to now to share that message with all of us?
It was crazy, because it was just a point in time where I was just sitting, and God said, look. And he was like, look at what's happening right now. Look at what's going on in your life. Like, this is a point where you've never seen this before. So part of my faith is, you know, belief for my dad to be completely healed and delivered from the things of his life that has hindered him from being in my life. And a lot of his is because God showed me to stand on testimony. So I'm looking forward to that. And so when I wrote this chapter, he has so much further than what he had done in the past. And it's a restoration within me, and a reminder that no matter what it looks like, it's still working according to God's plan, and it's all still going to come together. God was telling me, like, you know, there's things that I promised you're going to receive something, and don't settle. So it was like, tell you to settle. I'm going to happen to me. Couldn't part in, but he had where he was his. So it really got and reminded me that he's the God of the impossible. So I don't need what I'm seeing right now, but to have the hope and that it will work out.
Ebony, your connection was breaking up a little bit. It was going in and out a little bit. I think it just may have been the internet connection. I just wanted to let you know. I was able to hear you, but it was going in and out there. Tori, I want to ask you a similar question, because one of the things that you were able to talk about in your particular part is something that, if people are honest with themselves, they have experienced, and that is not feeling the best about God at times. I mean, especially we look at the things that are happening in the world right now, a lot going on in the world. And there are people who can express, like you express, about being mad with God. First of all, how did you find the courage to write that down? And then what was it like for you to kind of think about that and how you got from that place?
So that I remember asking God when he told me to be in faith and do the collaboration. And when it was time to turn something in, I had like a list of things from what I had already written, but they was deep, but wasn't as deep. And so when Dr. Paulette was talking, I was like, ugh. And God literally said, like, he was very clear. He was like, when you was mad at me, and I was like, oh. And so I remember as if it was just yesterday. And so writing it down, I'm very big about details anyway. So God was like, just be honest. It is okay to be mad with me. And so that is what I wanted to bring out and tell people, and just be frank. It is okay to be mad with God, because he already know we mad at him anyway. So it's like, what's the point of holding it in? Because the problem with us, I talk about forgiveness a lot, and you can't be free if you can't forgive. So God is like, how you gonna sit here and tell somebody else you can't stand them, and you're not willing to forgive? You mad at me, you're not willing to forgive me because you're not willing to have conversation. And so that's one of the things that in my chapter, Distant Faith, I was very adamant about. I wanted to show the conversation I had with God, what transpired and why it transpired, why it was so important for that piece of my life to come out. Because that was one of the darkest times in my life. And so when I look back at it, it was one of the darkest times. However, I wouldn't change it for anything in the world, because it was got me to where I am, to where I can talk about it and say, it's okay to be mad at God, because at the end of the day, we are humans, and he understands, as parents, we don't like to be, disciplined. And so we don't like to be told no, or not right now. And that's what it was in that moment. So that's why it was very important for me to be honest and be like, hey, I was mad with them. I was hurt because I felt like he was blessing other people for something that I was standing on, and they weren't even deserving. So it was okay for me to be honest and be like, look, I was mad with them, but I got through that moment in that time.
Love that. And now other people can benefit as well. Paula, I want to bring you back in as we wrap up here, because I think what's interesting about listening to all the contributors, and again, I want to invite our audience to go ahead and get your anthology there, Women with Unshakable Faith, there here on Amazon. For those on the Amazon side, all you have to do is click down below, or on the side there, you can get it for $3.99. For those who are not joining us on Amazon, on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you'll see the link that will take you over to Amazon. You can go ahead and get it for yourself. I think listening to, again, as we talked about in the beginning, Paulette, these different women coming from their different places, but also with these common threads that show, for one, that faith is possible, that things may happen that may shake our faith, but that we can build on that faith to make it unshakable. What do you hope people, as they're kind of hearing from some of the contributors here, Paulette, what do you hope they take away from their stories as they pick up the book for themselves?
Yeah, so what we're hoping for and believing for, that the readers will take away, that these women were able to maintain their faith, sustain their faith, and that readers can resonate with any one of these stories, any one of these 14 stories, that's really going to encourage them to build upon their own faith. It's these are stories that are not only impactful, empowering, but these are stories of, these women are just raw, they're just truthful, they're just sharing their own transparency. And for the readers, it's really giving them a clear overview of what faith looks like out of the eyes of 14 women who come from different walks of life, who share different stories. But the bottom line is that they had faith to believe no matter what. And so for the readers deciding on, what story that they're going to resonate with, there is absolutely many different stories in this collaboration that's going to speak to your heart, that's going to pull at your heartstring, that if it's not you, you know somebody who's dealing with something that has to do with faith, something that has to do with loss, something that has to do with love. There is a story in the book as well. Somebody has gone through cancer. So there's a gamut of stories that are going to be empowering and impactful for the readers to take along with them.
Such a good point, and so glad that all of you could be with us again. Again, I want to mention the book is Women with Unshakable Faith. You all can see it there, available now on Amazon. Paulette, I'm going to save you for last to let our audience know how to stay connected with you. But Ebony, I want to start with you. Let our audience know how they can be able to stay connected with you.
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at the Ebony Marie. And that's also on Facebook. It is, you can find me under Ebony Marie or at Love Thyself 18. And emails info@ebonymarie.com.
Love it. Thank you so much for that. And next up, we have Shatoria. Let our audience know, how can they stay connected with you?
You can find me on Facebook at Shatoria Faith Christian. Also at I Am Shatoria on Facebook, on Instagram, I am _Shatoria, and my website, IamShatoria.com.
Love it. Thank you so much for that. And next up, we have Choice. Choice, let our audience know, how can they stay connected with you?
Yes, you can find me on Facebook at Choice Simmons. That's Choice with a Y. You can also check me out on my website at www.iamchoicessimmons.com. You can email me at beautifulmindsccllc.com.
All right. And Paulette, once again, always a pleasure. Glad to have you back on with us. Want to bring up what Michelle says. Congratulations to everyone. Love you all. Thanks, Cyrus. And Dr. Paulette, she wanted to make sure that she said thank you. Thanks to all of the contributors who joined us today. Really appreciate it. Paulette, glad to have you back with us. How can they stay connected with you and keep up with other projects that you're working on?
Once again, thank you so much, Cyrus, for having us on. So people can connect with me on Facebook, Dr. Paulette Harper, also known as Pastor P. I am on IG as well, pauletteharper.com, my website, pauletteharper.com, and then also they can connect with me via email, pauletteharperjohnson@gmail.com. All my books are here on Amazon, and so for any projects that I'm working on, new collaborations, they can actually go to my website, pauletteharper.com, look under coaching, and they'll see that they can get on my email list as well.
Awesome. Paulette, congratulations to you again, and to all the contributors again for another Amazon bestseller. Again, Women with Unshakable Faith, available now. Make sure you guys do get your copy of it. Also, make sure you guys are staying connected with all of the authors as well. For those who may have come in late, whether you're joining us on Amazon, on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, the replay will be available, so make sure you guys do check it out. We also will be sharing snippets of each one of the conversations on Instagram as well. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb saying thank you all so much for watching Cyrus Webb Presents. You all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon.